Hey everyone, welcome back to Core Balance. This week we've got Strengthen and Lengthen. In a standing position, take those feet about hip width apart, dropping those shoulders back, and we're just going to focus on our breath to begin. Taking one of our hands down to the lower belly, the other up at the diaphragm, just focusing in on that breath, easing into our practice today. And while we focus on that breath, let's go ahead and roll out the neck. Just releasing any tension that we've built up throughout the week. Paying extra attention to any tightness that we're feeling from one side to the other. And go ahead and switch directions if you haven't already. On your next rotation, go ahead and drop that chin down to the chest, taking a big deep breath in. And on that exhale, really settling down, feeling that stretch through the back of the neck. Big inhale as we lift that chin up to the sky, top of the head comes to the top of our shoulders. And following through left ear to left shoulder. And right ear to right shoulder. And release that head back to neutral, dropping the hands to either side. In a gentle twisting motion, we're just letting the arms kind of flow freely here, knocking on heaven's door. Bringing some circulation into the hands and the arms, warming up the spine and the hips, just really easing our way into the practice today. But the key is to keep those core muscles engaged now and through the rest of the class. Next up, we're going to warm up the shoulders, taking the right arm across the body, feeling that stretch as we drop the shoulder down, and take that right ear to right shoulder. Switching sides, left arm across the body here, dropping that shoulder down away from the ears, but also bringing that ear down to the shoulder to stretch through the neck. And release. Go ahead and breathe all the way in and up, taking that right hand between the shoulder blades, using that left hand to kind of create a little bit of leverage here, pulling that arm a little deeper into the stretch. And release. Once more, breathing in and up. Left hand at this time comes down between the shoulder blades, using the right arm to kind of pull down just slightly, deepening that stretch. And release. Starting with the hands at heart center, we're going to breathe all the way in and up, and arms flow down. Breathe in, arms come up. Exhale, hands float down to the sides. In and up. Exhale and down. Deep breath in this time as we inhale all the way up, and on that exhale, we're going to descend down into a swan dive, down into our forward fold. Just melting it into the stretch here, feeling that tightness in our hamstrings loosening. Easing your way in, grab hold of either elbow and just let gravity do the work here. Little twisting motion to warm everything up, but just letting that natural pull draw you down deeper into the stretch. Relaxing the head and the neck here as we settle in a little bit further. And whatever you need to do, if you prefer the twisting motion or if you'd rather stay stationary, it's completely up to you. This is your practice today. Just sending that awareness to the hamstrings. Go ahead and drop the hands, coming up halfway, and then lower down, settling in just a little bit further. Big breath in as we take our hands back behind us, lacing the fingertips together, drawing those shoulder blades together, and go ahead and widen your stance also, if that would be more comfortable. Wide-legged forward fold here, feeling that stretching through the shoulders as we bind the fingers together. And on your next big exhale, go ahead and release the hands down to the mat and take it over to the right side. Releasing back to neutral and then switching over to the left. Once more to either side, back to the right. And release over to the left. Back to neutral, go ahead and heel toe the feet back to the center of the mat, about 2 fists apart. Last moments here on our forward fold, make it count before we root to rise all the way up to a standing. Hands are heart center. So jumping right in here today, the top of the mat, we're going to breathe in, swan diving forward, beginning class with a flow. Just settling in here, hands coming down to the mat as we step it back into a plank, just briefly enough that we can bring ourselves back into a downward dog. Pushing away from the hands, drawing those heels down toward the mat, pumping out the heels if you need. And it's almost like somebody's pulling you up by your waist, drawing that tailbone up toward the sky, pushing between the shoulder blades, forcing them to come closer together. And just relax the head, looking toward your navel, toward your belly button. Pumping out the heels, doing whatever you need to do, and when you're ready, that left leg is going to come up into the air, just briefly, and sweeping it through to step between the hands. Back knee drops as we rise up into a low crescent lunge. Keeping those abs long and lean, everything is nice and tight, flowing the hands back down to the mat and settling back into a runner's lunge. A couple good deep breaths here. When you're ready, transitioning that back forward, coming up off that back knee, and we're going to rise up into a warrior one. Nice and strong here. Mind your knees and your toes. Make sure you can still see your toes past your knee. And when you've got a steady base, open up to that warrior two. From that warrior two, shifting forward slightly and then bringing it back into a friendly warrior, really feeling that stretch across the abdominals, through the side body, and that strong base that we've got. Sweeping the hands down to the mat here, we're going to send it over to the right side in a low side lunge. It's going to feel really intense on the inside of the left leg. Settling in as deep as you can. A few good, healthy breaths. Before we sweep it back to that front foot, framing the foot with the hands and dropping that back knee once more. From here, that front foot is going to walk out to the side of the mat and then turn the foot out so the toes drop off the side of the mat as well. Really settling in here in a modified lizard pose. When you're ready, the hand closest to the foot is going to come up into the sky in a twisting motion and then gently back down to the mat. Stepping that front foot back and transition into an extended child's pose. Walking the fingertips away from the body, keeping those muscles nice and long and lean. And while we're here activating the hands, we're going to bring the fingertips into the mat, raising those palms up. Deep breath in as we transition up onto our knees here. Breathing all the way in and up. Bring the hands back behind to support the low back and leaning back as far as you can while still staying comfortable in a modified camel pose. All that awareness is in the front of the body here. And however you'd like to get there, we're going to come onto a seated position. Making a 4 with the legs, we're going to bring the right foot in to the left thigh. Breathing in and up, and exhale, bringing it over as we stretch into that left leg. feeling that really intense stretch through the backs of the legs here. Trying our best to relax. And deep breath in as we slowly start to come up. Bring that left hand over to the right knee. Right hand comes back behind to support in a twisting motion. And if you'd like, that back supported hand can come up and over, reaching toward the foot in a twisted side bend. And release. Back to a neutral position here. And let's go ahead and bring it back to a reclined pose. Walking the feet in toward the backside, getting comfortable. For these half bridge lifts, you're going to want to walk the shoulder blades in just a little bit closer together and lift that pelvis up toward the sky. Great job. Exhale, go ahead and release. And inhale, lift once more, a little bit taller this time. Continuing to breathe as we hold the pose. Really feeling that stretch through the glutes, that contracting of the glutes and the legs, but also that stretching of the front body through those abs. Staying strong, continuing to breathe. And exhale, release. Bring the knees in toward the body, giving yourself some momentum, enough to rock up to a seated position here. Great job. Let's transition into the other side, coming back up to that standing pose. Back at the top of the mat here, breathing in and up. Swan dive forward, not forward fold. Hands come down to the mat, feet step back into a plank position, and from that plank, going straight into that downward dog. Pedaling those heels, drawing the heels close to the ground, down into the mat, but pushing away from those hands. Settling in. Right leg lifts, bringing that foot in to meet the hands. Left leg lowers as we come up in that low crescent lunge. Exhale, hands come down to the mat as we transition back into that runner's lunge, feeling that stretch through the hamstrings, the backs of the knees. A couple of breaths. And inhale as we come back into that neutral position. Back knee lifts, pivoting that foot as we lift up into that warrior one pose, minding our knees and toes. And exhale, opening into that warrior two. Inhale, bring it forward slightly, and exhale as we come back to that friendly warrior, feeling that intense stretch across the front of the body. And exhale, cycle those hands down, coming into that wide-legged forward fold before transitioning over to the left side, feeling that stretch through the right leg. Deep breath in as we come back around, framing that front foot with the hands, dropping that back knee. And this time the right foot is going to come out to the side, toes spilling off the mat as we settle into this modified lizard pose. Hand closest to the foot sweeps up and over in a twisting motion, and then comes back to rest on the mat. Front foot swings back behind, and we settle back into an extended child's pose. Walking those fingertips away from the body, feeling that stretch through the shoulders. If you'd like to activate a few more muscles, you can bring the hands up onto the fingertips as well. Just finding that breath, and on your next big inhale, coming up onto the knees for that modified camel pose. Big breath in as the hands come up and over, and exhale, coming back to support the spine, leaning back, feeling that stretch across the front of the body here. If you want a more intense stretch and you're feeling warmed up and ready, you can always bring the hands to the tops of the heels or to the ground behind you. But hands supporting the back is absolutely perfect. Exhale, slowly come up, transitioning over to a seated position. This time the left foot comes in to meet the right thigh. Big breath in as we transition forward. Really settling in to that right leg, feeling that stretch. Lengthening all of those muscles, staying strong. And slowly inhale and lift. Right knee to left shoulder, left hand back behind in a seated twist. When you're ready, that left hand comes up and overhead, reaching toward the foot in that side body stretch. Release, left hand comes back behind to support our body, straightening that spine, and gently returning back to that neutral position. Come back into a reclined pose here, feet walking in toward the backside, shoulder blades walking together underneath the body here. And when you're feeling comfortable and ready, getting ready to lift that pelvis up toward the sky, tightening those glutes, feeling that stretch across the abdominals, and continuing to breathe despite the fact that we're holding this pose. Really bringing it up nice and tall, lifting that pelvis, taking full inhales and complete exhales. Go ahead and release and transition yourself back up to that standing. Top of the mat, deep breath in, and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Before we exhale, hands meet the mat, stepping back into that plank pose. Just long enough to transition into that downward dog. Pedaling out the heels if we need. Really trying to settle in a little deeper than we did the first time. When you're ready, transition that weight into the right foot. Lifting that left leg up into the air, three-legged dog, and sweeping it through, stepping that foot between the hands. Back knee drops, transitioning up into that low crescent lunge, feeling that stretch across the front of the body. And exhale, hands come back down to the mat as we transition back into that low runner's lunge. Forehead coming down toward the shin here. Using those back toes as support. And slowly coming back forward into that neutral position. Back foot pivots as we lift the knee and we transition up into a warrior one. Nice and strong here. This is a power pose. Exhale, transitioning to that warrior two. Inhale as we bring it forward and exhale as we transition back to that friendly warrior. Engaging those abs, and exhale as we sweep the hands down to the mat, coming to that wide-legged fold. When you're comfortably in position, go ahead and send that weight over into the right side, feeling that stretch through the left leg. Just continuing to breathe here, maybe pulsing a couple times. And inhale as we lift, coming back to that neutral position, framing the front foot with the hand, dropping that back knee. And that front foot is going to come out to the side of the mat, toes spilling over the edge here, that modified lizard. hand closest to the foot is going to come up into the air as we inhale into that twist. And exhale as that hand comes back down to the mat, sweeping that front foot back to meet in a tabletop position, just long enough so that we can send it back into an extended child's pose. Remember, you do have the option to bring those hands up onto the fingertips, engaging all those muscles in our forearms. And when you're ready, big breath in as we come up onto our knees, getting ready for that half camel pose. Inhale, hands come up. Exhale, back behind to support the spine here. And send that gaze up toward the sky when you're feeling balanced. Stretching across the front of the body here. Inhale, lift. And exhale as we transition back to that seated position. Right foot comes in to meet the left leg. And inhale, lift. Exhale, sending it forward, stretching into that leg. Drawing that forehead down toward the knee. A few good breaths here. And inhale, lift. Left hand to right knee, right hand back behind. And when you're ready, that right hand back behind is going to come up and overhead in that seated, twisted side bend. And inhale, return, straightening that spine and turning back to that neutral position. Settling back into a reclined pose here as we get ready to do those half bridge lifts again. Walking the feet in toward the backside, shoulders drawing together. Lift that pelvis up toward the sky, a little higher this time than we did before. Continuing to breathe. If you need to readjust, go ahead and do so. Really contract those glutes and tighten up all those muscles. And exhale, release as we come back into that ball and eventually up to a standing when you're ready. In that standing position at the top of the mat, we're going to breathe in and up. Exhale, forward fold. Hands come down to meet the mat, stepping back into that plank, and from plank right into that downward dog. Really starting to get the hang of this flow here, pumping out the heels as needed. And when you're ready, that weight transitions into the left foot, right leg lifts. As we step that right leg between the hands, that back knee lowers. Inhale, lift, low crescent lunge. And exhale, sending it forward and back into that low runner's lunge. Starting to feel that flow here, settling into the pose. Inhale as we transition forward. Back knee lifts and that pivot that foot as we lift into the warrior one. Strong base here. And exhale, opening to that warrior two. Inhale, setting it forward and back just slightly. Friendly warrior. And exhale as we cycle the hands down to that mat into our wide-legged fold, eventually sending the weight into the left side, feeling that intense stretch through the right leg. Settling into that pose here. Big breath in as we bring the hands back to that front foot, dropping the back knee, and walk that right foot out to the edge of the mat, letting those toes spill over the side. Right hand lifts up and over in that twist, and exhale back to that neutral. Kick that front foot back behind. From this tabletop position, transition ourselves back into an extended child's pose. Activating all those muscles, bringing our hands up into the fingertips here. And inhale as we rise up onto our knees for that half camel pose. Deep breath in, hands come up and over. Exhale, supporting the spine as we send it back, dropping that head, crown of the head to the shoulders. Inhale, lift, and exhale as we transition to that seated position here. Left foot comes in to meet the right leg. Deep breath in as our arms come up and over, and exhale, settling in, drawing that forehead down toward the shins here. Couple healthy breaths just to settle in. And on your next big inhale, rising all the way up, right hand to left knee, left hand back behind in our seated twist. And that left hand is going to come up and over in our twisted side bend. Exhale, left hand comes back down to the mat. And return to neutral. Bringing it back to that reclined position here. Walking the shoulder blades together, feet coming in toward the backside. And when you are ready, go ahead and lift that pelvis up toward the sky, nice and tall. This is the last time, so really make it count. Try to lift that pelvis as high as possible, really tightening those glutes. But it's important to remember there should be some space between your neck and the mat. It shouldn't be completely flush. You want to protect that neck. Last big breath in. And exhale, lower back down. Go ahead and roll over. We're going to come onto our hands and knees here. Really familiar, looping those shoulders back, strong tabletop position here as our knees and hips are in line and our elbows, wrists, and shoulders are in line. We're going to drop that belly down, breathing in to that cow pose, and as we round the spine over, pushing that air out, exhaling. Just continuing at your own breath. Stomach lowers as we inhale, spine rounds over as we exhale. Lengthening those abs, lengthening that spine. Back to a neutral position here. Taking the left foot and extending it out, lifting that foot up into the air. Dial those toes down and flex that foot. And if you're feeling balanced, the opposite hand, the right hand, comes out in front of you, really engaging all of those muscles through the arm, the shoulder, the core, the legs. Making them all work for you today. A couple good breaths. On your next exhale, lowering the hands and the knees back down to the mat. Opposite side, right foot extends out, dialing those toes down with that flexed foot. Left hand this time comes out in front of us, engaging all those muscles, Continuing to breathe. Nice deep breath in, and exhale, lower. Great job. From here, we're going to take the hands out a little ways, transitioning ourselves into a downward dog here. Pumping out the heels just a little bit more. We should feel nice and warmed up by now. And we're going to transition down into a plank position and just alternate between that down dog and that plank really slowly with the breath. Inhale, down dog. Exhale, plank. Inhale, down dog. Exhale, plank, staying strong through those shoulders and that core. Once more, transitioning to that plank. And down dog. Right leg comes up into the air, stepping through. Just as before, we're dropping that back knee, coming up into that low lunge. This time though, hands come back behind, fingers lace, really forcing that front body to engage. Inhale, flowing the hands back down to the mat, kicking that front foot back, and coming up into that downward dog once more. Opposite foot lifts up into the air, transitioning through to the hands. Back knee drops. We inhale, lift into that low crescent, but this time the hands come back behind, lacing the fingers together, feeling that stretch through the abdominals and across the front of the chest. Inhale, hands come back up and flow down to the mat. Front foot kicks back to meet the other. And next, we're going to come onto our forearms here in a forearm plank. If this is too intense, go ahead and drop those knees, coming into a forearm half plank, just whatever feels comfortable to you. But while we hold this pose, we are continuing to breathe. We don't want to hold that breath. We want to keep that fresh air coming into our bodies. And release. Settling into our forearms here. We're going to come up almost like a downward dog, bringing that tailbone up toward the sky. This time though in a dolphin pose. Really trying to settle in here. Tailbone up toward the sky, heels driving down toward the mat, relaxing that head as much as possible to keep the tension out of the neck. And exhale, dropping those knees, carefully coming up out of the pose. And we're going to lay flat on our mats here, just taking a second to relax, regain our breath. We're going to do some locust poses or Superman poses, whichever you prefer to call them. Hands are going to come out in front of us here as we extend our toes back. Feet are going to lift up into the air, and we're going to balance on our pelvis and our center of our body as we lift those arms up in the air as well. Like Superman flying through the air, staying nice and strong, engaging those glutes and that core and all those muscles through our back. And exhale, release. Take the hands to the sides here, just letting that tension melt away. One more time, prepping ourselves, this time hands lacing back behind, pressing into the tailbone, lifting those legs and that upper body, balancing on that pelvis and that core. Really, really strong. Deep breath in. And on your next big exhale, gently release, lowering back down to the ground. Just melt yourself into that mat. bringing some awareness back into the body, pressing ourselves up and back, rolling over to a seated and then a reclined position here. Similarly to what we did before, we're going to do some bridge lifts. This time though, we're going to cross the left leg over the right and lifting ourselves up in a one-legged half bridge. We're going to do this in a couple repetitions, so at your own pace, breathing in as we lift that pelvis up to the sky and exhaling as we lower. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Go ahead and uncross the legs here. Switching, this time the right leg across the left and right into it whenever you're ready, lifting that pelvis up toward the sky and exhale, lower. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. A couple more times here, staying strong. Really feeling that work in our glutes. Last one, inhale, lift, and exhale, lower. Great job. Uncross the legs here. We're going to come up onto a seated position. Feet out in front of us, trying to find that sweet spot where our sit bone and our pelvis kind of meet, and it makes this flat spot that we can balance on. When you're ready, we're going to lift those shins to be parallel with the sky, arms out to either side, really engaging that core. Staying strong here, finding that balance. When you're ready, we're going to take it out to the sides. Left, center, right, center. Out to the left, out to the right. Really staying strong, focusing on that balance, focusing on that core strength. If the motion is too much, just hold that boat pose. Keeping the hands in at the center or out to either side, just keeping that strength in our core. And from that normal boat pose, we're coming high and low, extending the feet out, transitioning back. Low boat, high boat. Oh, stay strong. Low boat, high boat. Just one more if you've got it. And release. Great job, you guys. Go ahead and extend the feet out away from you, settling that tailbone into the ground. And we're going to walk the hands back behind us just slightly. The key, though, is to turn the fingertips in to face the legs. And when you're ready, we're going to lift that pelvis up off the ground in an upward plank or a reverse plank. Staying strong through those arms, strong through that front body. Engaging those glutes, and release. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the relaxation. Melt yourself into that mat, reclining back. Find that breath. Relaxing the jaw, relaxing the face, unclenching the fists, uncurling your toes. Whatever you're doing, whatever tension you're holding on to, just let it go. If you'd like, you can go ahead and take the hands out to either side of the body, palms facing up. Just let those feet turn whichever way gravity lets them fall. Just take a few more moments here, regaining that steady breath. Great job today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay here for as long as you'd like. Enjoy your relaxation and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Namaste.